Our bodies have different makeups and needs. And so what works for one person is not going to work for the other. And it really boils down to paying attention to your body.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Heart Inspired, the show dedicated to highlighting individuals in their pursuit of authentic leadership. We peel back the layers to uncover the roadblocks we all face, explore the actions we can take, and how to persevere towards the best version of ourselves. It is my hope that you'll be inspired by their story and gain some insights to help you in your own journey. In this episode, Kelly Travis, a wellness and leadership coach, talk about the importance of mental, physical health, and wellness. Kelly shares her story about her eating disorders and how she was able to overcome those challenges, transition from her corporate job to entrepreneur, where she now helps others, holding them accountable to continue to optimize greater health and well-being. Please welcome my guest, Kelly Travis. Hi, Kelly. How are you?
I'm good, Michelle. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. I'm really looking forward to talking to you and hearing more in depth about your story. You're doing such great things with clients, and in this day and age where mental health and wellness is so important, especially for leaders who are leading others who may be struggling still through as we continue to come out of the pandemic and keep moving forward. I would just love to turn it over to you and tell us where your journey started.
I always say that my journey started when I was about 19 because I had a severe eating disorder. So I dropped out of college. I left behind my collegiate career and I was hospitalized, was really, really sick. It was that first eye-opening experience where I thought, I got to get it together because I'm throwing away so much, not intentionally, but I'm losing so much. I have a whole life to live. And one of the thoughts I remember having, because I had journaled about it, was that I wanted to use my experience to serve other women who were struggling with not feeling like they were good enough, with perfectionism and a lot of self-critical thoughts that come with eating disorders, addictions in general, right? That desire to hide from the hard stuff. And so that didn't happen immediately. I recovered and I actually changed my major and went back to school to study public health and mental health. And I did work around addiction and a lot of speaking and workshops. And then fast forward, I ended up in corporate America doing different stuff. Found myself again kind of going, why am I not doing that work, right? I had my first son and realized I still had a lot of work to do on myself, and decided that if I was going to continue to work professionally, I wanted it to be something that meant something to me. And so that was when I made that pivot back into what I started with and created my business to support women on making, change.
That's incredible. Let me ask you, when you were going through that at 19 and what have you, you were still living at home, correct? Or were you away at college? I
actually went away to college in North Carolina, and I grew up in Michigan. So I was far away, and I had a really bad coach, one of those coaches you hear about in the news that criticized our weight. He actually wrote up a fake contract. I was very naive and impressionable and thought it was real, that I needed to lose a certain amount of weight and I would get X, Y, and Z in return.
Oh my gosh.
Just really shady.
Yeah.
And I really spent a lot of years unwinding the narrative I had in my head about myself that came from those conversations. He would come up behind me and grab the back of my arm and say, "Travis, you've got fat back here." Just stuff like that.
Oh my gosh.
Still to this day, I can hear it, I can feel it.
Was your family aware? Did you make them aware, or were you hiding it?
When you're going through that, you don't even realize there's something wrong. It becomes something that you have to do, and it's a part of you. And I was running so well that it just made sense to keep losing weight. And
so you had the reward, even though you were damaging at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I didn't see my parents until my last race. It was at Nationals. I finished as an All-American. And they confronted my coach and said, like, what's going on? She looks horrible. And he gave them similar lip service, like, oh, she just needs to eat a piece of cake. Right. And then it kind of all started to unravel from there.
So you're in corporate America. How many years were you in corporate America for before you started to realize that's not your joy? Let's make a change.
So I spent the first like 3 years out of college doing what I loved. And then I moved to Las Vegas. Moving to a new state and a new city, it was just like, what am I going to do here? And I had this opportunity to work in the publishing industry. And I spent about 8 years in the publishing industry, moving up the ladder, like trying to prove myself in a old man's world, and sitting around the boardroom with, other executives who are making like 3 times as much as me.
Oh, know that one.
And really like doing a lot for my career. But at the end of the day, just kind of going, I'm really good at this, but the next thing on the ladder, I don't want, and this is not fulfilling. It was one of those moments like, okay, I'm not going to settle for this. And I have always had this entrepreneurial spirit, this desire to do something on my own. And that's really was kind of the catalyst for that, along with just having kids and wanting to change that.
In that process, you started to find your voice.
I hadn't found my voice, but I recognized that I wasn't being heard. And I was doing a lot of work and not getting compensated for it or recognized. And just that frustration and that realization was enough for me to say, forget it, I'm out. I can do this on my own.
Did that help? That eating disorder that you had at such a young age, you obviously were healing from that. Was that voice still there?
Yes.
Yeah.
I always say that I physically recovered, but it took me an additional 12 years to really recover from the eating disorder.
Yeah.
Because I still had a really horrible relationship with food and my body, and I was certainly not thriving. And so I had a lot of insecurities that prevented me from really speaking up and being seen and pushing boundaries and that kind of thing. I believe that in that period of time, I recognized it. Now, I certainly hadn't figured it out at that point. But once I left and started to do the work on myself to be able to do this business, because that had to come first.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a jump. That in between was where I really figured it out and started to realize, some of those things.
You then take that leap of faith and go into entrepreneur mode. What was that like? Did you have fears? Did you have, that inner critic?
So for me, my personality, I act like an 8 on the Enneagram, which is very much like leader, powerful, right? But I think like a 7, which is that, excited, entrepreneurial, like want to live life to the fullest type, right? But always battling the self-doubt that, all of those things that come with feeling like a 2. So we're really getting into some of these details, but my personality is that I'm a risk taker. I love to like pursue new things and be challenged. So that part was great. But then after the excitement wears off, that's when the like, this is real. That's in.
Yeah, now you have to face it all.
Exactly. And so, like a lot of challenges come with owning your business and doing it alone. And I think it's natural to have a lot of those insecurities, but it's also what makes it so fun.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. I was telling somebody the other day, because, huge on helping people navigate through that imposter syndrome, because it's the story we tell ourselves. And so let's pick it apart and take out the pieces that no longer serve us and start to build a new story. But like your foundation of that illness, if you will, that you had is there. It's a scar, and you've just learned how to navigate and build a better story for yourself.
Yes.
But So now when imposter syndrome kind of creeps in, which I don't know for you, but it's daily, maybe a couple of times a day, I just go, oh, you're here. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. I'm not ready for you. Bye-bye. And then I kind of let it go. But you almost have to program yourself to do that each time.
Yeah, you have to know that when you're pursuing anything worth pursuing that is hard and challenging, that's going to show up because you're doing something you've never done.
So now you are in this space of helping others with their health and wellness. Tell us a little bit about what you do that is so powerful for women or for men. I'm not sure what your clientele is that helps them get through that.
I really work on the inner narrative, like you mentioned, which is not an overnight process. And it takes, I think, a lifetime to really do the work. It's just ongoing, and do the work around really identifying goals that we want. I know from my experience and in working with a lot of people that we have a tendency culturally to set goals we think we're supposed to go after. And in my work, the crux of a lot of what I do is figuring out, what do you actually want? Right?
Yeah.
Not what on paper you're supposed to do, or what your neighbor thinks you should do, or what your friends are doing. What do you want? And the way we go about that is really first identifying like what motivates you, what is important to you, right? And then once we identify that goal, which can feel really scary no matter what we're doing, then creating the strategy to achieve it is, again, based on the personality. You and I might have the exact same goal, but we probably are not going to go about it successfully at the same way, right?
Correct. Yep.
Which again is problematic in our society because everybody thinks that there's like one blueprint we're all supposed to follow to achieve things. And so really that is a large part of my work. And then of course, all of the things that come with doing that, addressing that, right?
Yeah.
My podcast is called She Doesn't Settle. My program is called She Doesn't Settle. We're really trying to work to overcome those things and give ourselves permission to really want more.
What happens when you get a client that says, no, I can't, I don't want to, this is never going to work? You hold them accountable? Are you giving tough love, or are you giving it with grace?
My clients say I'm kind of a mix of like hardcore, going to call you on your bullshit, but I'm also going to love you really hard. So
that's great. That's like, parenting, the same thing, right?
Yeah.
You've been in business for how long now? How many years?
8 years.
So you've seen quite a few of the ups and downs, and most recently in 2020, as we know, the world kind of came to a stop. What have you seen with your clients or in your own observation, how the pandemic has impacted people more and more with their health and wellness, including yourself?
We all saw this awakening happen where folks maybe weren't prioritizing their health and wellness as much. They were ignoring it. They were pushing, pedal to the metal, got to get it all done. I don't have time to do the thing to take care of myself. And in my work, that is foundational to everything we do. Like, we've got to get that dialed in before we do anything. What I've seen is people are less resistant to talking about that part of their lives, right? They're more open to, you know what? Yeah, I should be getting more sleep. I should be setting more boundaries. I should be, moving because it's good for my productivity and also for my mental health, right? So the conversation has shifted to, I don't have time for that, to now more and more people are saying, I see the value and I need to make it a priority.
And during the pandemic, did your business increase or kind of? It did.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time in organizations actually virtually working with their employees. And my own programs were full because people were saying like, I got to get it. This is the time. I can't put this on hold. Like, going to keep going. Yeah.
And you're coaching both in the physical and the emotional space for your clients? Like, are you helping them with workouts, or tell us a little
No,
bit
I
more?
started my business that way. That was my
Okay.
entry point into the space. And
Hmm.
it evolved to more of the um, personal, professional development, mental, physical health piece.
Yeah.
But I'm not
Yeah.
doing workouts. Yeah.
And are you still a runner?
So I had to stop running and racing competitively for about 10 years because I kept relapsing. When I was 30, I started training again and was training to qualify for the Olympic trials. Then
Oh,
I
wow,
got
you
pregnant
are.
with my first son.
Oh, okay.
Um, and about 3 years ago, I re-entered the racing world. So I'm competitively racing again, which in my 40s is a lot of fun because the pressure's off. I'm just doing it for myself. And I needed to prove a few things to myself in that space. I needed to be able to say, I can race healthy and still be like doing what I want to do to achieve my goals, which
Mm.
has proven to be incredibly helpful for me on my own journey.
And so any of those old feelings or stories come up when you're racing now?
No.
That's really great that you were able to
Yeah.
let that go and write a new story for yourself.
Yeah, it took 20 years, but I am there now and it feels really good.
In your practice, or even for yourself, what's shifted? Is there nutrition involved in some of the work you do? Are there some tips that, you can let the audience know about?
When it comes to the nutrition piece, what I will say right off the bat is it's not a one size fits all, right? We
Yeah.
are all different.
Hmm.
Just like we have different personalities, our bodies have different makeups and needs. And so what works for one person is not going to work for the other. And it really boils down to paying attention to your body, which we suck at as a society because we've become conditioned to rely on other people to tell us what we need. So first and foremost, it's spending that time really paying attention, listening to your body, understanding what doesn't feel good and what does feel good, right? And responding to that. As a whole, my work is focused on adding in what is missing versus eliminating. So
Oh,
oftentimes
tell us more about that. Adding in, so
yeah,
like nutrition, or yeah.
yep. So let's say you and I are sitting down and we're talking about your nutrition and what you eat and drink, and you're like, Kelly, I eat a lot of fast food, and I'm not drinking enough water, probably don't have enough vegetables, maybe I'm skipping a meal. So rather than us focusing on cutting out the fast food,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're children. If I tell you you can't have fast food, what are you going to want?
I'm going to want fast food.
Exactly. So we need to focus on adding in first. So if you're not getting enough vegetables or you're not drinking enough water, we're going to focus on adding that stuff in. And as we start to add in the good stuff, our bodies naturally don't want as much of the bad stuff. Typically, what happens is you start to eat the good stuff and drink the more water, and your body goes, oh, I feel really good when I do these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't really want the fast food. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to cut it out, but it's going to naturally decrease. And so that is where my focus is when it comes to that. We can't be perfect at this stuff, right? And
Exactly.
we should never swing from, I never cook meals, I eat out all the time, this is my, to I'm meal prepping and I do X, Y, and Z, right? It's just not.
And I'm juicing now and everything
Right,
else.
right. So it's really like baby steps,
Yeah.
starting where you're at,
Yeah.
and really making it realistic and sustainable.
And so now I'm sure your house has a good balance of both, and you have children. Are they
Yes.
fast food eaters?
We're not, because I really have never been, and my kids love vegetables. So we're
Oh, that's
like
good.
that weird family that the kids love vegetables. But we still indulge and treat ourselves and do all of that stuff
Yeah,
because
because sometimes if you just keep ignoring and craving, you then binge later. I
exactly.
found. Yeah.
I follow the 80-20 rule, which is 80% of the time we're eating really great, 20% of the time it's not great.
With the companies or the organizations that you're working with, are there groups of employees? And how do you see that there's a shift with leaders. Are you focusing with leaders or employees? What's your thought about the shift that's taking place in corporate
Yep.
America on that?
I believe that I know that HR leaders and business owners and presidents are recognizing the importance of providing solutions for their employees around well-being. And prior to COVID, you had the progressive organizations that were really doing this work, which is where I was working. But now we're seeing a shift in terms of this is something they're prioritizing. This is something they're looking into and they're considering options. And when I work with organizations, I team up with the HR team and identify what they're really needing, what they're struggling with inside their organization. And we curate a program that fits with those needs. So whether it's doing group coaching, if I'm working with leadership to help support them, some companies bring me in and I do one-on-one with their, employees. So it really kind of runs the gamut based on what is happening in the organization and what they feel they need.
And are you seeing with some of the companies and leadership that you've worked with, are they embracing it, or are they looking at it as, well, this is good for my team, but I'm good?
I choose to work with organizations where there's buy-in from the top.
Yeah.
And they're going to either be a champion of the program or they're going to participate themselves. Typically, I've had the experience where that doesn't happen. And then, a year comes around and that gets cut because they never participated and didn't understand the actual project.
I've been when I was in corporate America, we were given, at the leadership level, we were given opportunities to do some of the trainings, maybe participate in workshops with doing DISC or something like that, all these great improvement things. And then we would be in the meetings or these workshops, the person who was leading it, our top leadership was off doing something else because it was almost as if we needed fixing, but we're good. Go fix them and then everything will be great. It's so good to see that you're seeing that, and hopefully others will see that. In order to be a champion, you have to be engaged. You can't just exclude yourself from it.
No. And, when it comes to, even the Enneagram work I do when I'm going in organizations, it's important for the leaders to participate so that their employees understand them. Yeah. Right. It's not just about employees understanding employees, but when leadership is involved, there's this learning around how to communicate with one another. What do my employees need? How do I best, respond to them and understand their motivation and that kind of thing. So it's crucial, I think, for the progress of an organization and the health of it.
It's great that you have dealt with your adversities, created a new story. Corporate America realized that that was not for you, what you were doing, pivoted, and now you're living, doing what you love and then supporting others to help them with their own mental health and wellness. So that's really incredible. What's on deck for you for 2023? Any new big goals for you?
Yeah, professionally, I do a lot of speaking and I really want to get that rolling again. I kind of, after COVID, it was when's it coming back and when should I start doing that again? And I'm really excited to be launching another cohort of She Doesn't Settle, a group program. So that will kick off in January and I'm enrolling now. So that's super fun. Personally, I have a marathon I'm running in a month. So I'm in the middle of all of that. And just more experiences with my two kids and being involved in everything they're doing.
And there must be active. Are they runners like you?
My youngest loves to run. I've tried to keep him from it, but he has found it himself. And they play soccer and do jujitsu right now. So
busy family life.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Fun.
Well, that's really incredible. Kelly, thank you so much for sharing your story, being vulnerable. I love that you're helping, the corporate America like myself. Let's make some change. Let's make some positive change. Let's bring some awareness that just because the story was the way it was, we don't have to wash, rinse, and repeat. Do something new that benefits all, right?
Absolutely. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me, Michelle.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. I wish you all the best. When's your marathon? When are you going to be running?
First Saturday of December.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Yep, I'm ready to go.
Well,
I'm
all
ready
the
to
best to
race
you.
it and take some time off. That's where I'm at right now.
Well, all the best to you on that. And I'll have to touch base with you and see how you did.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. You're the first person I know who actually personally who has run a marathon or who will be running a marathon. So I'm excited to hear more.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for being on the show. I really appreciate it. And good luck to you and your family and all the work that you're doing. I applaud you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you again for listening. We'll be back soon with a brand new episode of the Heart Inspired podcast. Until then, I'm your host, Michelle Delgado. I welcome you to support the show by rating us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. To learn more about Heart Metrics Consulting, book a strategy call by visiting the website at heartmetrics.com.